all the lights at 6 o'clock or when it's dark, and then go to your cave, to your bed, and just do some self-care and start reading a book.
And we are the co-founders of Global Fast, where we bring people together who are new to fasting, and we help them, guide them through a fast. And today we're going to be talking about sleep and how to optimize sleep, seeing as we are both biohackers. So why don't you get us started?
Yeah, okay. So yes, we are biohackers. So we are improving environment around us and within us to help us be at our optimal best performance. So lots of people have this misunderstanding about biohacking, that you have to inject things inside of you, microchip yourself and things like that. So it's nothing to do with that.
I would hate that.
It's actually totally the opposite what it is. So yes, there are loads of biohacks that we practice with Caitlin. But sleeping is one of those things that people often neglect and underestimate. So when we get our sleeping pattern right, then everything else falls into the right piece, and we feel healthy and happy, full of energy. But it's really hard to get there. It's hard to sleep well. We often think we fall asleep because our eyes, and that's sleep. But in most cases, it isn't. So I have been tracking my sleep for the last year. Yes, one year actually now. So I'm using Oura Ring, this really cool device. It's got like a really tiny microchip inside. So it takes data from my pulse running in the finger. So the data they focus on is heart rate variability, my sleeping pattern, activity levels, and they keep on improving. So I had the ring for a year. It's called Oura Ring, O-U-R-A. I may not be pronouncing it right, but I call it Oura Ring. So yeah, it tracks your sleep, and you get your data every morning on the app, and it gives you a score. 100 is the optimal. I've never been to 100, but 92, anything above 85 is good. So it measures your REM sleep, your deep sleep, your restfulness, the latency, which is the length of time it takes you to go to sleep. It's quite quirky, and then you can really see establish your own pattern. So there is no right or wrong answer with this measurement. It establishes your own pattern, what's good for you, and any discrepancy shows instantly. So for example, yesterday, I had, going back actually, so last week I've been doing a lot of hard work on getting my good sleep under control. So I stopped watching TV in the evenings, and I just read a book. I go straight to bed, like not sleep bed. I don't do TV because we need to remember the evening light, and we are surrounded by blue light, by junk light that constantly triggers us into thinking that it's midday. So one good thing is to turn off all the lights at 6 o'clock or when it's dark, and then go to your cave, to your bed, and just do some self-care and start reading a book, meditate, do some breathing works, or blue light blocking glasses are really good for that as well. But I started with just no TV, and I do those things here and there, but not on a regular basis. But I started with no TV at all, and literally improved my deep sleep instantly. And I was really surprised by that. I often have restlessness, but that's to do sleeping with a child, and I can never get rid of it unless he goes to his bedroom, which is really hard. But yesterday, it was very interesting. Yesterday, I had a really bad sleep, because I pulled my back. It's like a pulled muscle in between my ribs, and it's so painful. It's so painful, and I just knew I didn't have a good night's sleep, and an Aura ring detected it, and it was like my temperature was elevated because I slept in really hot bedroom, and I was tossing and turning, and I was in pain, inflammation, and I had like really, really poor score. So today I need to do again, no sleep. I'm going to take no sleep, no TV. I'm going to take a warm bath and a cold shower afterwards, and go to bed as my Aura ring tells me, and often it tells me at 5:30 p.m. time for bedtime.
Wait, so what do you make of that? That can't be correct.
That's I think they just kind of tell you, okay, you know, it's time to kind of ease yourself down and, you know, turn the lights off, put your blue light blockers on, you know, create the atmosphere around you for a better night's sleep. So these are the things. So yeah, no TV. The early morning grounding really, really helps resetting my circadian rhythm, which is when we go, you know, it's our sleeping pattern. Circadian rhythm is when we know where to sleep, when to sleep. So grounding is really good. So you go on a piece of grass with your barefoot 20 minutes a day, up to 40 minutes or however long you want. And that really balances your hormones levels. So that melatonin, which we need in the evening, will be activated. And obviously if there are no disruptions from junk lights. But yeah, like everything and anything affects our sleep. Poor diet, alcohol, late night eating, stress, obviously, and we often tend to just forget about those things. But sleeping is really, really, really important.
Yeah, yeah, I love how you brought up that all these things are related to or affect sleep in one way or another, right? And alcohol, I mean, that's a huge one. If I have 1 or 2 drinks, even, I know that my sleep is messy. And I mean, there's hacks around that, you know. But and then also daytime activities are a big one, you know. If I know for me, if I don't do enough activity during the day, I don't sleep well, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So being in like lockdown and things like that, it requires extra effort to have like do enough activity during the day so that your sleep can be better. And this also, you know, that all reduces stress and inflammation. When sleep is good, then all these other things align as well.
Absolutely. And also, you know, when you don't sleep well, when you wake up not rested properly, that kind of increases your cravings for sugar. It feels like you have a, you know, hangover. So you constantly eat more or bad foods that you would normally, because our hormones are out of whack. So ghrelin is one of the hormones that's responsible for us feeling hungry, and that's, you know, spiked up because we're like, oh my god, what's happening? So yeah, it's very important to understand that sleeping is really, really, really important.
Yeah, and I just want to make a note. A lot of people sort of, you know, when we talk about hormones, a lot of people go to like, oh, well, that's like a lot of, I want to say males go to, oh, that's a female thing because we're talking about hormones. But actually, you know, something like melatonin or serotonin, you know, these are hormones as well. Ghrelin is hormone that, you know, turns on our hunger. It's our hunger hormone. So when that's up, you know,
there are loads of hormones in our body. There's, you know, adrenaline, cortisol, and cortisol is released or activated when heightened, when we are under constant stress, and you often kind of creates big bellies, and that's especially in men. And stress is anything, you know, anything that triggers fight and flight response. So, you know, the light in the middle of the night, the TV watching just before bedtime. So that all just triggers our bodies as stress. So we're constantly stressed. It doesn't have to be the, you know, heart palpitation, sweaty hands kind of stress.
Right.
It's, you know, the hidden stress that we don't feel.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you brought this up, because one of the things that I do in the mornings is I do about 20 minutes of meditation before I even get out of and so our cortisol is highest in the morning. It's like naturally.
Yeah.
And
Which
so
that makes us get up from bed. We need it, you know, but we need
exactly. So one of my hacks is to regulate my cortisol first thing, so that I know that I am in control of this body, you know. And so I do that through mindfulness.
It's amazing. How do you do that then?
So I mean, I practice mindfulness, and it's meditation. We're doing like insight meditation. I usually do like focus on the breath first thing in the morning. And because like for me, as soon as I get up, I'm like thinking about all the things that I have to do today, and like la 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 la, and my brain is already like switched on. Even if I'm not fully awake yet, my brain is like on steroids. It's on cortisol. So it's going, you know. And so what mindfulness does is bring me back to being in control of my thoughts, and regulating that, and this lowers cortisol as well.
Yeah, nice one. I like that. I'm gonna introduce that as well. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
So what are the things? And most of the things about sleeping, the hacks that we talk about are free. So, you know, we don't really need to invest into anything. You know, I have this ring, but you can, you know, we can just, you know, avoid TV late at night, stop eating 3 hours before bedtime, make sure your bedroom is cool, because it's better to rest when in a cool bedroom. So open the windows, even if it's cold outside, but you know, it's the air circulation, and make sure your bedroom is pitch dark as much as you can. So blackout blinds, cover up all those flashy little lights coming out at you from sockets and various power points.
Yeah,
and not to mention the phone needs to be out of the bedroom. I know some people say, oh, you know, put it on airplane mode and this and that. Just don't bring it to the bedroom. You don't need your phone in the bedroom. Like, you really don't. I introduced that regime in our family last year, and the thought of it, when I was, even to me, I was like, oh my God, but how am I going to wake up? You know, how am I going to wake up? And what am I going to do? Or you just going to sleep? And my husband was like, oh, what if I'm just going to put it at this far away from the bed? And, you know, I was like, no, it needs to be outside of the bedroom. And now it's, you know, it's just the natural thing that we do. We put our phones in the kitchen, and then we go to the bedroom. And we don't need to wake up at a certain time. And if there is, you know, we have kids, we don't need to have alarm clocks.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, because you're also honoring I mean, it's right now you're in like a family circadian rhythm almost. So you're honoring that, as opposed to, you know, a personal, if you're living alone, we each have our own circadian rhythms that can be honored as well.
Yeah, definitely. And also it's, you know, it's very seasonal as well, because where I am now in the UK, it's very dark. So the sun rises at 7:40 in the morning. So when I wake up, it's still dark, and obviously dark early in the evening. But summertime is very different, because, you know, the daylight is really long.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, sleep. Fix your sleeping. People.
Yeah, so the other thing about sleep um, is that we can be really hard on ourselves about not sleeping or not being able to get to sleep or not getting the right sleep. So, yes, like let's track it, let's optimize it, let's hack it. Um, but the narratives around not sleeping or not getting the best sleep um, can be very damaging to us. You know, it's not helpful to be like, I'm terrible at sleeping. My sleeping is awful. You know, I can never get to sleep. You're actually telling your body that you
Interesting.
are unable to sleep. Um, and so what we can do about this is change that narrative.
Mm.
And I say it very simply, but it can be very difficult to change the narrative.
Yeah, it's all about the habits.
What's that?
It's the habits that we've established, right? It's breaking the, and that's a tricky bit in anything.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. One of the things that I recently learned is just a very like simple line is like let sleep fall upon me. You know, I'm allowing sleep to happen now. Because sleep is not something that necessarily we do. We just allow it to happen, you know?
I like it.
Or we should allow it to happen. And
Good.
we often buy these, you know, with these narratives, we don't allow these things to happen.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that line. And again, you know, if I'm struggling to get to sleep, I use those narratives. And I also do sort of a mindfulness practice of doing like a body scan and just lying there, noticing any like tensions that are, you know, even just a frown, like that's tension. So like releasing the frown and going like systematically through the body, through each part of the body, and really just chill, 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 chill. And by the time you get to your toes, you're probably asleep. Hopefully.
It's like yoga practice. That's what Savasana is about, right? You scan your body from head to toe, and that's how you relax. And often, actually, that's another interesting tip. Often, when I do yoga, and I do it quite frequently, and every time I'm in Shavasana mode, my ring detects me as if I was sleeping.
Amazing. And you've just been doing like an hour yoga workout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it's very sweaty, and then you have 3 minutes of Shavasana, and then the change in your heart rate and your pulse, it's just incredible. So that's a good hack to help you fall asleep. Scan your body from head to toe. Just acknowledge it, right? Layer by layer.
You're just noticing, often just noticing tension releases tension. So you're just giving it space to be, right? So it's when stress happens, when we come up against things that, you know, we don't want it to be that way, right?
Yeah.
So the narrative there could be like, oh my God, my forehead is so tense, you know, but instead you could just be like, oh, there is tension in my forehead, and immediately like face drop, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of the mind is fascinating.
Yeah.
And the other thing on that note is that our bodies know how to relax when we let them, you know. And my yoga instructor says that, you know, in Shavasana, like he sort of just reassures the class that, you know, just allow the body to relax because it knows how to, you know. But we get so caught up in all these things in our minds that we often don't just allow things to happen, you know.
It's hard to switch off your brain, especially when you do yoga like during the day, and it's like you need to keep your brain busy all the time, and that's, you know, that's the wrong way of thinking. Like just move away your thoughts from you for a second and just be still and present at the moment. But that's the trick. It's like mindfulness, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really,
So what you're talking about is going in and out of mindfulness, and we can go into our heads and use our heads. And Dr. Mark Atkinson talks about this in his program.
yeah,
Was going up into your mind and using it for what it's useful for, which is like being intelligent human beings,
yeah,
and then coming back down into presence.
yeah.
And that's sort of where we want to be stepping into life from, essentially, and then coming back to presence. So step into your brain, use your brain, because we're human and we're awesome and our brains are great. But then come back down into presence and you can use mindfulness as tools, as a tool to do that.
Yeah. Don't let your thoughts control you.
Exactly. And you can just look at them, just see them. They're not you. They're not real.
No.
They're just literally from I've always, as soon as I started practicing mindfulness, I came up with this imagery of thoughts being turned out of like a printing press, where there's just thoughts, and literally you can just like sit there and watch them, because like they're just thoughts, and they're just being turned out. Like that's what our brains are. Part of the function of the brain is to think, right? So it's going to do that, but it's whether we allow ourselves to attach ourselves to every single thought and believe every single thought.
Yeah, exactly. And get, hung up on every single thought and take it seriously and, waste time and energy to process it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So on top of those, mindfulness of sleep, shall we call it, I love what you were saying about sort of creating a cave for a sleeping cave. This is so important, and I so agree with it. And making the wherever your sleep space is, like honoring that as a sleep space. And I sometimes go into the bedroom early, as soon as it starts getting dark, and I close the curtains, and I make sure everything, like there's no maybe clothes lying around or whatever. I sort of clean it and sort of prepare it for when I come back to bed later.
Yeah, nice.
And my I don't know, routine, I guess, before sleep is to have calming tea. And when I'm having my calming tea, so that's like chamomile, or I have like a combo one now. I think it's got like, is it valerian root?
That's
that's I'm
it's
sure.
Quite strong. It's quite strong. It's careful, but I guess if it's pre-dosed for you, it's
it's in a tea. Like, I mean, it's just from the supermarket. Yeah. So it's got that in it, and then I think also like lavender or something.
Yeah, nice. That sounds good.
So I have that, and then I told you about it the other day, was I started reading a novel that's completely not related to work or personal development or anything. Just completely switch off. So this to me is like the healthy way of watching TV, because I don't want to be sitting in front of the TV, because the light messes with the sleep, just like you have been talking about. And so, like reading a novel is fantastic, because you can just get sucked in, and like I do that maybe an hour. I make sure that I give myself like an hour at least before bed to just chill out, read, have my sleepy tea, and then I go and take melatonin as well, and I journal in the evenings. And journaling for me is huge, because whether I am actively, like, whether my brain is switched on, whether I'm like know that I'm stressed or not, having a lot of thoughts, journaling just sort of clears my mind and clears my thoughts.
Keeps
Yeah.
you focused.
Yeah, well, I think it's more of a release, you know? It's just sort of getting it out. Whether I'm actively processing these thoughts or not is another story, but in the back of my mind, maybe it's like they're still going on. So just by getting it out on paper, that's super helpful for me anyway.
Well, that's a good hack. Yeah, just clear your head before you go to bed. Yeah.
Completely.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, are we good with this?
Yeah. So lots of good tips, and they're all free.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But on each 3 hours before you go to bed, have a calming tea, prepare your bedroom. It's your sanctuary. It's a cave. Make sure you rest well in there. Make sure it's nice and dark and cool. Clear out your thoughts on paper, and you're ready to go.
Totally.
Yeah. And when you do it a few days, I mean, it's hard to establish a new habit, but if you start doing it, it comes naturally to you, and then you will wake up naturally as well, and you will be full of energy.
Yeah, totally. I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your hacks.
Yes, and thank you. That's great learning session.
Awesome. And again, we are the co-founders of Global Fast. We have a community fast coming up on the 7th of February, which we invite new fasters to join us, where we can help facilitate a fast that you don't have to be suffering and hungry and all the things that people think are about fast usually.
Fast is good. Good for you, it's good around. So yeah, stay tuned.